We have quorum. Woohoo. We're all set. All right, so calling the meeting to order at 12:01. So starting off with the land acknowledgement, I acknowledge with respect that we are in Robertson Huron Treaty Territory, that is the land on which we are gathered. It's a traditional territory of the Anishinaabe and known as Boating. Boating is the home of Garden River First Nation, Batchewana First Nation, the historic Sault Ste. Marie Métis Council. So first off, we have the adoption of the minutes. Has everyone had a chance to work them over? Right. So if there are no changes or additions, can I have a mover? Joe, and a seconder.
It's Stephanie here. I can second it.
All right. Is there any declaration of pecuniary input? No. All right. And now on to the adoption of the agenda. Is there any additions or changes to the agenda?
We just had the request for the letter.
Yes. So we did have one letter coming in on our correspondence. So we will be adding that to item 8. Right, so can I have a mover to adopt the agenda as amended? Angela, and seconded by?
It's Stephanie here. I can second the agenda.
Sorry. All right, so moving on to business arising, we have the Buchan Health proposal.
So Kim is here for the committee, so if there's any questions, you can help answer them. Yeah, so the in your package, I included documentation that we just received from Taylor. So there is a letter along with the design or proposed design that was completed, as well as some background information, since we do have a number of new committee members that weren't here for the original discussions. I brought the correspondence back to last fall when the initial request came in, and then the correspondence leading up to today, just so you had all that background. Yeah, it's a lot of new information for the new committee members.
So if everyone has had a chance to go over everything, so does anybody have any questions arising from everything?
Virginia, it's Stephanie here.
Go ahead, Stephanie.
Oh, sorry. I'm just curious to know who's in the room with you.
Can you can't see?
No, for some reason the camera is not working.
Oh.
It might be on something on my end, so I apologize if I'm being needy.
So in attendance is myself and Victoria, and Salvatore as staff. That's an update from the staff with planning now, so he's not a voting member of the committee anymore, but a staff resource. Joe, Nicole, Kelly, Jonathan, and Angela, Councilor Caputo are here, and Caleb Courier is joining us to answer any questions we may have regarding the proposal.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. It's Alex here. I don't have any questions for Caleb. I know it's been a long time, and I want to thank Caleb for being able to be here in person. We haven't been able to connect in person. Even though I'm not there, Caleb, I can see you on my screen. Also, I had a chance to go through all of your documentation, really thorough. Love the receipts. Everything's great there. And I know, you first connected with us back in 2021. So I'm just happy to be part of the committee and hopefully move this along for you. And great job on the documentation.
Are there, I did have a picture, Caleb, I don't know if you want to show approximately, because just so everybody's aware, currently the building sits on Conservation Authority property. So we're going to be moving it onto their property, and the Karina there, who does the Assistant Area Conservation Authority, upon approval of the committee, is ready to bring it to their board, but she doesn't see any issue with the board releasing the property to the courier to have that move happen, because obviously if you're going to invest in it, you want to have it on your property, not on the Conservation Authority property. I did, just so everybody's familiar with the site location, and oh, where did it go? That was not it. I did have from the road, situation on the property? How far, like, were you moving it up off the driveway?
It's gonna be in the field, currently to the left of the farmhouse. I got the property markers out there staked, but they're buried under snow. I got the email and there's no way I'm gonna be able to measure it. That's gone, so.
Especially after the last snowfall we had. So I'm just gonna bring up.
So, what we're looking at,
Sorry.
right there.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm just gonna clear my screen. Okay. Can everybody see my screen now?
Right there.
So in this area,
A little bit to the left.
over here, just kind of off the pathway going in.
Yeah. Maybe not quite that far back. That's pretty dramatic in there. Yeah. That's good.
So yeah, so if everybody can see my screen, this is currently the Bucking House resides back here, which is on Conservation Authority property, and it would be moved forward closer to the road into this zone. Is what's being proposed. Any other questions about location? Okay. Did anybody have any questions about the design, about which elevations? So just for clarification, which of the elevations, the front elevation will be facing the landside roadside?
That's up to date. I mean, doesn't really matter. It would basically would sit facing the same way that it does now. It's on a bit of an angle, it would be more square. With the addition on the north side. I know the architectural drawing.
So yeah, so if we're looking at the rear elevation, is that correct? Sorry.
So this would be the north wall.
Yeah.
Facing where that radio tower is. This is the existing structure as it sits right now. And that would be the addition. So this would be facing the road. Yeah, it took me a figure that out myself. So sorry, say that again.
So this is the existing building.
Yeah.
So this is Bucking House here, and this is what's going to be facing the road. And so they're going to be adding this portion on here. So this will be facing the road and just adding this extra structure on here.
So the roof materials, what roofing materials do you have right now? Caleb?
That's going on there?
Yeah.
It's gonna be sheet metal. The only thing that's left heritage in that building is the log itself.
Yeah.
So,
It's got a metal roof now, doesn't it?
no cedar shape, which is in bad shape and be stripped.
So the only thing that's here,
So, yeah, on that building, it existed on Kirkham Beach Road. The city expropriated it in approximately 74. They're gonna put a portable go in. They did not do that. The city became a landlord. They rented it out until the late 80s. Where they decided they were gonna put in the portable go again, which they did not. Then they brought in planning and they just said demo this thing. Sent an architect by the name Terry Short. Somehow managed to get a stay of execution on it, and it was such a rush because the portable gun was going in so fast that the only thing they got the heritage was the logs. The roof is not the original, flooring is not original. There's stone fireplace.
and then they moved it where
They stripped it, labeled it, numbered it, stacked it in the field, put it under the sheet metal that year, then years. Or I did it again. I am going to.
I just want, I.
It's, yeah, and for the background and history of the community, that the Firs have been a steward of the building and that invested in it. The beginning. Yeah, so any of the repairs in that have been through the Firs doing repairs and not the conservation authority. With the way, my understanding is that that's what the agreement is. And, yeah.
So now the advantage to you coming to us is that the logs will stay a heritage piece. Everyone will.
Is gonna stay.
Okay.
Because it's currently, it's not even on a permanent foundation, it's sitting on a mud sill, which is just hewn with white pine timbers, so it can creosote. So there's no frost walls, and nothing, has not come with maybe 100 years out of it, maybe not. So eventually, my dad's 76, he's not gonna be trucking forever, and he's gone. The building is gonna end up being tree like an area built on the right. So there is no future as far as I know for it. City.
Well, you're making.
I'm gonna give it. So I was in talk for conservation authority, they don't want it. They don't have the money to deal with it, they don't have a plan and purpose for it. City doesn't want it many times. So.
So I just have one question, like, do you have plans to, or how do you have plans to preserve it?
Well, the reason why that south wall got the trouble that it did, is there's upward facing log checks, so checking happens in timbers when you have a differential in moisture content, so a part dries faster than the outside. And then that will cause it to split. So the best thing for it is gonna be to wrap around in a veranda, which is on the diagram. So this one did not have any overhang, 2 feet overhang off the roof. You get upward facing checks, you get water in there, and away you go. The rest of the logs are gonna need a treatment, what they call boracol, it's a salt, because on that south wall, when you get wet wood, it ended up with an infestation of carpenter ants. They like it because the wood is wet, it's easy to dig, as well as powder post beetle. There may be remnants of powder post beetle starting an infestation in the western wall. So the best thing to do is to hit with boracol right now. And the boracol also is moldicide, so will also prevent any deterioration of the wood, as well as the fungicide.
Were there any other siding? We had talked about at one point.
Forward back on the. That's a historical thing that usually happens with the, you know, always opens down. Forward education.
No. Are there any other questions about materials that might be used down the road or for the addition?
The only real material left to make the log part would be when the log structure itself has some way the logs dry with the green. And that's gonna cause some shrinking going on. You can't even shrink it right now, because you gotta wait till it's 4 degrees. And minimum. Otherwise the chinking won't cure it. So there's gonna be permanent chink, styrofoam insulation in the middle, duct tape. What do they call that stuff there, hardware cloth. They're gonna get nice entry schools. And I'm up for debate as to whether or not, because I know when you change anything in the heritage log, you're supposed to be able to differentiate and or replacement in a new one. Or not. So there's a treatment called lifetime they put on. So you know, silver 18. It's also a good.
And you're doing that to the heritage store.
No, on the new log. Heritage logs when we get work, only 1 point staying on them, they're already silver. So
Anybody have any other questions, comments?
What's the advantage to doing this for you? Like, why you would? I'm not.
why do I
asking you
want,
this, like,
why do I
why
want
do you?
to?
Yes, that's kind of, yeah. Like,
I didn't really want to get off, but when my father goes, something's gonna have to happen with that building. I'm gonna be the only one left to be dealing with it, the city and the heritage committee and conservation authority. It's gonna be me now, or it's gonna be us in 5 years. In 5 years, I'm not gonna have a reason for it. So that's gonna be another problem.
but right now it's all taken apart, right? You're gonna reconstruct it all.
No, I'm gonna
Okay,
slide steel beams under it, jack it up, put a truck under it,
right.
drive it over, build a railway, slide it on with concrete foundation. But in 5 years from now, there's not gonna be a spot out there, it'll have to be straight, maybe numbers and these things.
Did you want to, is everybody in favor?
Yeah.
I can prepare the resolution and then we can move forward unless you have any other concerns. I've got probably resolved that the Sault Ste. Marie Municipal Heritage Committee recommend that Bucking House be moved from the Sault Ste. Marie Regional Conservation Authority property to 943 Landside Road. And further that the conceptual design with the front facade of the Bucking home facing Landslide Road and materials for the addition to include board and batten siding, metal roofing, be brought to city council for approval. Does that cover everybody's thoughts on? And is there a seconder?
I can second.
And all in favor? Okay. So motion passed. And do we want to make a motion for the cost of the lots that got installed?
Pardon?
The cost of the logs for the.
Yeah, we can move ahead to that agenda.
Okay.
So the second part is the request for the Heritage Property Grant. Did everybody have a chance to look everything over? Was there any questions with regards to the application? We do have, I got we do have the balance that's we have remaining that's available for 2023. is 7,759, so that's what we have available in our designated property grant account. So I'll confirm that with our accounting department. So we- for the session.
I know the city is stating at the 3,000 cap. This is an extenuating circumstance. If there is an assistance for me, it's all coming back to the city eventually. So there's gotta be some assistance for me to deal with this one. You know, I could probably build this house new for a fraction of the time the actual. And those receipts, there's not 1 cent on that receipt from White Pine. Because when you go logging for White Pine right now, it's such depressing prices, nobody will cut it. You gotta massively overpay and nobody's gonna give you a receipt. Not a chance. So I logged some of that White Pine myself. And the stuff I bought was on the table because nobody wanted to even consider that.
So what's the ask, the financial ask? My computer won't turn on.
That's okay. No, the request was for the total of all the invoices, which was 12,000. $12,450.99, which is the full cost of all of the receipts that were presented for the repairs to the timbers, which originally were less, but as they got into it, they had to do a lot more work than anticipated because they found additional timbers that were decaying that they were aware of when we first were looking at it, as well as the receipts for engineering to do the designs.
When you strip that thinking, that's when you can't tell if we use the bottom logs or soft. It's basically packing with an ice pick or screwdriver. You can sink it in there. That's a problem. But a lot of it is behind the chinking. When we peel that chinking back on those square timber buildings, the load transfers down to the ground through the dovetail, and then we have window and door openings. They put crush blocks in there. Those crush blocks were deteriorated, dissolved, non-existent. The whole wall had sagged right down, including the upper level. The header and the summer beam had all pushed it right down. It was rotten beyond belief. Absolutely beyond belief. The ledger board was all broken. It was really in bad shape from that upward facing checks and water infiltration. There were 2 windows the contractor put in with 15 years ago and get them sealed up properly. And that's just going to be the beginning of the cost. The soffit, the fascia, that cedar shaped roof is rotten. The water's coming out of the chimney. Like there's a lot of boards that got to come off that roof deck. It is going to be. This is just the tip of the iceberg. So I'm looking for anything and everything I can get because if there's no incentive, like I said, I don't need the headache to redo all of this.
When you say just the tip of the iceberg, you mean for yourself, not for us.
Well, there might be some, if you help me get it over there, this is off your plate forever. This thing, I will make it so watertight locked up, I ain't coming back. You'll never see me again.
So about all these renovation costs.
What I would be
how
looking for,
much does-
when I started this process, there's 2 guys in town that will truck it. The one that's most known is Andrew. He moved to one of those up on the avenue. Jimmy Joe's. He moved the church to the farm in the 80s. And he's pretty much retired because I guess city makes it very difficult to permits for moving those. I convinced him he's willing to do this. And he would only say he would do it because he's not going down the road. His rough estimate was 11,000 and I had to do all the work. He's got the truck and the equipment and he'll be right there, but he wasn't breaking sweat. So. That was a rough estimate 2 years ago.
Do you have the?
I will get that thing over there.
That sounds like Ron, Caleb.
Yeah, Ron said he'd come by and offer some technical advice. So I got the labor. But financially, Brad, I got enough to do it. So we'll have him there. So if it's on me today, it's all on you guys 5 years from that. Or are they able to match? That's another way to do it.
Um,
Does anybody have a conceptual note or?
How much was the total? 12,000
Yes.
something?
And the balance that's in, that we have available in 2023 is 7,750.
So that's for this year.
Yes, for this year.
I know the city can do more on a one-time thing, and in comparison, December got like 15 and change. And I realize that's extenuating circumstance, but this is the last and only agricultural heritage building that I know of in Saskatchewan. Everything else is sitting down here in your downtown core. 7-11 bedrooms, two big brick facade stuff. The only thing like this, like this. Yeah.
a lot of money. for shareholders. It's, I get it, like, preserving the history of that.
And it is only April, so if we do have any more asks this year, then we would have nothing. So.
Bring it to city council and ask for a larger one-time ask.
Yeah, can we do that? Say, give them 3,000 from our account and send it to city council.
I don't know what, and I actually, I don't know what pot they would pull from, right?
I'll be honest, I think they'll get turned down.
More than that.
Well, there isn't.
There's, because there's not, yeah, that's what I'm saying, like, where do we?
Yeah.
Where do we ask to take it from, right? So. If you're saying you have the 7, whatever,
Yeah, 750.
I think that's, I personally, I think that's where that's the roof. On what we're
Yeah,
at.
that's the cap.
Um,
What do we normally do, like 3,000 or 1/3 or something like that?
3,000, and you take it up to, like, depending if it's 75%, so if the project's 4,000, you get a maximum of 3 because it's up to 75% if it's over. Kensington Terrace is 3 property owners, so that
Yeah.
was part of the larger amount, but and it was a extremely large, like, a large
Yeah, that was-
project, but, you know, we have went over the 3, given the circumstances and the amount of contributions there as well, so.
Yeah, the only time I've ever remember going over is when there was like more properties, like Wellington Square, Town where there's 5, and then Kensington where there's 3.
Waco's.
Yeah.
Waco's was the first one. I think Claremont was 300.
Yeah, that was the city property.
But that was all paid back by the store.
Yeah.
Goldstone.
I guess we could go up to like 50%, I guess. Max I would go. I don't know. It would be like double or half.
If you look for any other sources. We have other investment.
No, I wasn't.
There, aside from private funds, there are no grants that are out there. There used to be years ago, provincial grants that helped with historic properties that there isn't anymore.
Somebody with like more sort of knowledge than I want to speak to like the history of this building, and why I think it's important. Like I know it was being kind of read through, like it's a lot. So if somebody wants to sort of be great. The importance of these buildings and you know what I mean? It's a big aspect.
I don't know if I'm running the thing to write up. No, I toured it to last time I was on the board, more than 10 years.
Yeah, I mean, I see here the evaluation. There, which is probably, you know, this is high.
Yeah, and I think from a historical perspective, I think it, like they say, it's the only log home certainly, right? Aside from the block house. But as far as the residents, yeah, one of those last surviving spare log buildings. It's you know, it's tough to get a building there, but there have been years where stuff has gone into it. And you know, generally Kensington was asked because it's their competitive budget for this year. So for a lot of the property, they are thinking about the project this year. So that we may or may not get more applications in. Usually this is the time of year see the applications coming in because they're prepared for it. So,
And this is what we have.
this is what we have left for this year because Kensington used up a little bit of this year's allocation and we do vote in some of the reserve money. So that's where we got to the, if there's years where money's not spent, we have a little bit that does go into reserve to help out with other projects that are coming forward. So, you know, it's kind of that cash that you know, we won't spend it, then it's like, okay. You know what I mean? So it's hard to know at this time of the year, but you know, I think a portion of it's reasonable. It depends on which pieces you want to consider. And generally, you know, there's two parts. There's all the work that was done on the lots, which is part of the historic nature of the building. You know, the design work, although that's what's going to help with future preservation of the building. It depends on how you look at the different voices that come in and then stuff.
So as of right now, building standing,
Yep.
you preserved it already?
The logs are on, you can't put on board call until it's consistently above zero. The weather freezing, it's no good.
And you're gonna preserve it first before you use it.
The board call walk you on immediately because I'm worried about the power code field and parking area. We haven't even talked about changing yet, which is a historical major aspect of historical law. And we're looking at permit change, $400 a pail. There's probably on that wall alone, we're looking at another 4 pails of that, and you got the rest of the building. So like, this building is very expensive. If there's no assistance for me on it, and eventually, you know, I'm just gonna put it back in private containment and go with new. And in 5 years, and your keys, and whatever you guys decide, it's up to you. I'm just trying to be a good Samaritan, and a white knight will probably be anybody had.
Any time like that? For this whole project, What's your timeline?
I-
Maybe all of this year?
Well, I want, like, when I started this 2021, I was ready to move in the spring of 2022. Everything with COVID. With permission, I still gotta do the legal part of the conservation authority. Haven't purchased it from them yet, because I didn't want to be left holding the bank where all of a sudden there's no symptoms. Now I hold the line. I don't want that. So if I could get it moved this summer, I would, but that's a lot of contractors coming up with, probably realistically not able to. We're gonna. Well, my ambition said we're gonna do it right now.
I'm willing to accept the 3,000 for this year. Is there- I know we- for the summer?
That give you enough incentive.
It's enough of a carrot to keep me interested.
Then the same with that.
Okay, so the resolution, we resolved that the Sioux City Municipal Heritage Committee recommends designated property grant for the timber replacement and repairs to Buckham House in the amount of $3,000, and that a report be brought to city council for approval. Go with that,
I just got a quick question. How does this work legally if we're not giving the money to the actual owner of the building?
We've provided grant opportunities in the past because they've been the stewards of the property.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Good.
So, second, please?
Sure.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And all in favor?
Thanks, Peter.
Yeah.
Thank you, Caleb.
Any questions? You can let me know. Whatever.
Have a great day.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, so if you put an application in, saying in December, January next year, 2024 project, he can reapply. They're allowed one grant per year.
And he's still in file, like from these receipts.
It's a little bit,
That's what I was like.
a little bit of a delay, but there was some confusion in what he thought he had to do when he presented the stuff that he was offering. He thought he was applying for the grant when he came and got the approval, so. Yeah, it's definitely kind of a weird situation where it doesn't sit on their property. They have been one students doing all the repairs for the last number of years. If they would then become like a conservation authority, the city's responsibility down the road. Okay. Cool.
All right, so moving on to 54 Cement House.
Alex, did you want to jump in on that one?
Hi, I will let you take the lead. Thank you.
No problem. So we've been having some conversations with 54 Summit. They are very interested in designating the interiors. We did some outreach to colleagues in other areas, and they have some hesitations because it's not something that we can necessarily police. Alex did have a conversation with the Hugels with regards to that, and they still wanted to proceed, knowing that we may not necessarily be able to go in and, know if somebody painted the interior. So that's something they do want to pursue. Alex has already done some background research, which I included in the package. So the next step would be looking at actually preparing a final draft designation report for the committee to review. So just wanted to see if there's anybody that wanted to assist Alex with that research and pulling the draft report together.
Is that Nicole?
Yes.
Yes, okay, now we're moving.
All right, so we just need a mover and seconder.
I think Alex said he'll move it.
Sure, and I'll second.
So can we have a seconder? No. Okay. All in favor? Perfect.
Can I ask a question about that? Are we going forward with designating the interior, or is that a decision ongoing?
Yeah, so right now Alex has done sort of the preliminary assessment. So this is saying that we're gonna go forward and actually draft up the whole thing. So get everything drafted up so that we can present something sort of like you see Bucket House as presented here.
And after all that research is done, the committee's gonna have an opportunity to take a look at it and then make adjustments at a committee meeting to see if there's any changes that want to be made. But it'll just provide the committee with enough information to make that decision.
Yeah, because even if we don't designate the interior, it's nice to know what the interior looks like. That's important.
Mhm. Yeah.
For future reference. Good.
Right, and then we have subcommittee and task force updates. If you have anything from that. And then moving on to new business, we already discussed the Buffalo property grant. So moving on to the Heritage Property Tax Rebate Program. So we have new applications. The first one is from Kensington Terrace, that's unit number 3. So this is just with the Heritage Property Tax Rebate. So most of you are new, but like each year we go out and we assess the buildings to see if they're sort of following a line with keeping up the heritage property, and then we could offer them a tax rebate. So they're usually in the sort of like early fall, we have a group to go out, we take a look at everything, see if everything's being kept up, and then we make assessments moving forward with accepting the property grant. Sometimes there might be a couple issues, like this has to be repaired, things like that. So we bring that forward to the property owners. Usually they're pretty good with fixing it up. And so it's just going on now, adding these properties to that so that they can get that tax rebate as well.
And just to add to what Nicole's saying, there's the owners that are currently enrolled sign an agreement. So there's a preservation agreement that we have with them that basically indicates that your rebate is contingent upon you doing maintenance and maintaining your home. So these applications are new applications. Those are due in this time of the year. And we will then have to take this to council for approval and enter into that agreement with these owners. So 2 of the properties are new owners. So they purchased properties from owners that were previously enrolled in the program. And 2 of them are new. So Dawson Block is a new request. It is a designated property, but they haven't been enrolled in the program because not all properties have chosen to be enrolled in the program. And 119 Woodward was recently designated, and they've asked to be enrolled in the program as well.
Right, so if we want to go ahead with that, you can actually see pictures of the property as well, you know, what we're talking about, and then you can see who the owners are. So with Kensington Terrace, if we want to start with that one's just a new owner. Does everybody seem okay with Kensington Terrace? So can I get a mover for that one? And seconded by Angela. Perfect. And then Dawson Block. So Dawson Block is the new one. Everybody know Dawson Block? Yeah. Yeah, so they're new owners, and then they're looking at starting the property tax rebate too.
That's the conscious one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this whole building is.
Yes.
The exterior.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So if we want to go ahead and add Dawson block to the property tax rebate, can I have a mover? Okay, go with Jonathan and then seconded by Jones. Perfect. And then 119 Woodward Avenue. And so that is our new property that we've been designated as Virginia said. Does anybody have any questions about that one? Or do you seem okay with that one as well? Okay, so can I have a mover for 119 Woodward? Angela, and a seconder. Kelly. Oh, I'm all in favor. I'm gonna keep forgetting. And then lastly, we have the Wellington Townhouse. And so that one is also a new owner. Okay. So mover. Yeah, Ellie and seconder. Angela. Okay, and all in favor? All right, and now we have the Municipal Heritage Committee terms of reference.
So I just noticed it's. Attachments are there. So that did not help everybody. There are a few little changes that we needed to make within the terms of reference. It does state a 3-year term, so it's residual from before, so we need to get just the bylaw updated to make those minor adjustments, and then it was more of a formatting that needed to be done just so that we're consistent with all the other committees. I will bring that back to the next meeting so we have a chance to look at the intentions and it is. So we will bring that and move that forward to meeting agenda. I made that quick.
And now on to the Heritage Tree.
Yeah, so heritage trees, this was on the last meeting, which we didn't get a chance to discuss. So one of the items that was identified in the cultural plan was taking a look at heritage trees in the community. So we wanted to look at forming a bit of a task force to kind of work on this project. We would be pulling in our our members from our parks. They have a horticulture and forestry division. So staff from there, we're looking at having a planning staff involved as well as myself, and possibly looking to see if we might do some outreach to Oakridge and see if there's a staff member at Oakridge that could be considered.
Even look at the bug lab because they even have their
arboretums there. So reaching out to somebody that's actually, you know, looking at trees as a profession from a different lens than just a forestry division. So, so checking to see if there's a couple members that might be interested in working on that committee. So the resolution would read, resolve that Tobacco and Nicole Curry participate in a working group with city staff to review heritage trees and bring a report back to Municipal Heritage Committee for review. It's going to take a little bit of time, just so everybody knows. Our parks crews are sort of ramping up and starting to get into a very, very busy time of the year, but we can start kind of picking away at it.
But I could start out by reaching out to Oakridge about that.
Yeah, that's great.
Because my parents used to work there, so I know a lot of contacts about that.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, and I think Kathy Fisher said was sure that there was some work that had been done in the past, so we're trying to find that past research from before my time at the city, but she thought that there was something that had been done quite a while ago. Our forestry crew does have a lot of the city-owned trees tagged, so they're part of the GIS system. So we have that tool as well to tap into.
I think we have probably, like, 'cause I know there, we have some information about trees at the museum too, just like the system, you know, like, we did have a like planting one tree or things like that too. So there are little records like that that I could be able to start the archives.
Yeah, that'd be great. Alright.
Just as a resource too, I believe, when I lived out in Alberta, Medicine Hat, Alberta, they had a tree program, a heritage tree program, so. Might be a guideline to look at.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, what-
Heritage Trees Alberta and Medicine Hat, so. Heritage resources. Like ours,
Yeah,
Heritage Resources Board, and they do trees.
Ontario also has, Ontario, there is some additional information on one of the Forest Ontario Heritage Tree Program.
Oh,
So they have, a link to that as well. So there's a couple different avenues, but yeah, if anybody finds any additional research, please feel free to share. We just,
So can we have a mover for that motion? Angela, and a seconder, Jonathan, all in favor? Perfect. Now moving on to doors open. So we did doors open last year. We had the sort of, our first doors open in 2004. And then we did the one last year because it was like free to do for us. We were going ahead with that one, and it was a little bit of a short notice, so it wasn't the best, but we did it. We had a lot of sort of different people on properties getting involved with that. We had a Facebook page and Instagram and all that created for that. And so we still have that. If we want to look at where the doors open, that's already all set up. So it's more looking at, do we want to do a doors open event this year? And if we do, it'd be good to start planning, because last year it was a little tough.
it was a challenge. And it was, because it had been such a long time, we had to start from scratch recreating all the materials. This year, a lot of those info sheets and materials for a number of the properties are done. And then some new properties are being added in that we would have to.
Because I know the courthouse did want to participate, but the thing was, is we were doing it on a Saturday, and so they don't have staff Saturday. So if we're doing it this year, it'd be nice to sort of look, have it over a couple days, because in 2004 we did have it over a 2-day period. So if we want to do it again, if we have over a couple days, that way we could sort of space out properties, because some properties you have guided tours, so that way we make sure that everybody can sort of go on tours with them. So if we just know those things now, so it'd be good. Have that extra planning time.
Yeah, because I think we started in June last year. It was late.
Yeah, and then we're off sort of for the summer too, so then we didn't. Yeah,
It was a challenge. I think there is a fee this year. So that's, we just want to double check. The fee is normally it's 1,500 to participate, so we can see what that fee is, and then we can kind of bring a summary back to the committee. Just to say, okay, here's the fee, here's the commitment, you know, kind of number of volunteers that we would need to. But a lot of that template and the work that we did last year and finding the contacts is already established. So
and I think we could even do a digital one that would be free.
okay.
Because the digital is still on there for registering for this year. Because last year we did a hybrid of some were digital, some were in person. So if they wanted to do that, it can be broken up that way.
Yeah. So we can, maybe Nicole, you know, I can get together, we can write out the options, and then we can bring it back to the committee and make a decision. Thank you.
All right, so the next one is the correspondence. So William Hollingshead from the Sioux Museum wrote a letter to us, and he's looking for like our help in collecting bricks. So sometimes we don't receive enough advance notice that a building's coming down, so we can't collect the bricks. We do have a few bricks that we were able to collect, but what we're looking at doing is if the Municipal Heritage Committee could write a letter to the planning department, because they're getting over permits to tear a building down. So if they receive a permit coming in about tearing down a building, if it sort of meets that sort of historical criteria, like it's an important building or it's X number of years old, if they can let us know, and then we can make sure, like the museum, we can go out and grab a brick, because we eventually want this be able to display the brick, maybe like create a nice wall of the old bricks. So we're even though we can't save the buildings, we're still getting a piece of it. So also, if Will sort of said that if we could look at buildings that are maybe like 80 plus years old. I'm not sure if we want to keep with that timeline, or if we want to say buildings that were built like before like this year we'll look at. Does anybody have any preference?
You already done some work on it. So is there a big difference between 80 years and 60 years?
It's more so the building.
Yeah.
It's more like, because 80 years would bring us to the 40s.
Yeah.
So do we want to sort of preserve the history of buildings built in like in the 40s or in the 50s, or if we just want to do a general like the 80 years so that in the future it's always being brought up. Yeah. So 80 years from whatever year it is currently, and that would sort of be a good determinant of like a heritage property. If we sort of want to look at it that way, because it's more so if it's the 80 years, but also if it's like an important significant building as well that we want to sort of consider, that we think that is like either the building has been important for the city or the whatever, like the events of people that were there with it that we want to preserve. And then also probably as like if we're going ahead with this project, we would also as a museum reach out probably to the public as well, seeing if they have any bricks that they've collected and want to bring in. My family, we had a brick from Collegiate, so we donated that to the museum. So now we have a piece of Collegiate at the museum as well. So so that would also be part of that project. Just doing that, but we just need that extra help from the city to be notified.
I believe the letter would go to the building department.
Building department,
Yeah.
okay.
Somebody's communicating.
Yeah.
Right across, right?
Yeah, so it's sort of more, it's just if it comes from the Municipal Heritage Committee, like it's maybe a little bit more official than it comes just from the museum.
That's okay, we can draft a letter and.
And then it would be the museum that would be notified about the building coming down and stuff that would be going out picking up. So there's no extra stuff on the Municipal Heritage Committee.
Get a letter draft.
All right. And so that was the last item. So our next meeting is May 3rd. Right, and so can I have a motion to adjourn? Joe, and a seconder. Jonathan, and all in favor? Perfect.
All right, bye, everybody. Have a great day.
Bye, take care. Thank you.